I was watching the game on Wednesday. Always like to bring up that game. I was watching the game Wednesday, and that number 14 for Wolves, I can't remember his name, he was at times giving the Saliba and Gabriel a tough time in terms of his ability to hold the ball up and outmuscle them. And I think Solanke should be watching that and watching that, what he was doing, and take something from that, because Saliba and Gabriel didn't really want it too much.
Who's their number 14? Oh, Rocadore.
And he scored at the Emirates as well.
Mm.
He was a bit. I'm not saying he was like a great player, but he was a handful. And what he was doing is every time Wolves played it forward, he was nipping in front of them and just like holding the ball in and laying off to the midfielders and just making sure he wasn't outmuscled and just keeping possession and making it difficult for the Arsenal centre backs. And he gave them a bit of a tough time, and it was part of the reason why they got a bit of joy late in the game. I felt. I'm not saying he was physically dominant the whole time, but on occasion he was just able to hold off Saliba and Gabriel. And Solanke should be watching. I'm thinking, if I can use my body against these guys, I am strong, and I think Saliba and Gabriel feel like they can dominate anyone. But I've seen Solanke give them a tough time before for Bournemouth, so I think he can.
Yeah, we need to physically impose ourselves as best as possible on Sunday, and we know what time it is right now. We know what season we're in. We're in bottling season right now. Arsenal couldn't hold on to a 2-0 lead against Wolves at home, Wolves away. A Wolves team that have picked up 9 points all season. They overturned a 2-0 deficit. They couldn't go to Brentford and take the 3 points either. They are on a knife edge in terms of how big their title race is, because they were massive favourites a week or two ago. They had an opportunity to go 9 points clear. They were 9 points clear for a few hours. And ever since then, it seems as though, you've seen signs before then, but the crumble has been slowly, and it feels like we're there now. It feels like we're in prime Arsenal crumble territory.
You just see the pieces falling off.
Yeah,
already.
I can see it, mate.
They're making mistakes.
I can see the apple through them, mate. The crumbles are starting to wear thin.
They're making uncharacteristic mistakes. They're doing weird things that they weren't doing earlier in the season. Zubamendi, that mistake against Man United, just playing him for one goal. That wasn't happening earlier in the season. The mistake right at the end for the Wolves goal. Reya and Gabriel just getting in a miscommunication. All these things is a sign of a team struggling to deal with the pressure of having the lead in the title race and being hunted down by a team that's caught them so many times before. So I think definitely there's a psychological component to what's going on with Arsenal at the moment. 2 wins in 7 for a team battling for a title is signs of that, albeit City have gone through similar periods, but I would say they've just been not good enough rather than it being a mentality thing. I think when they've dropped points, it's because they keep getting caught out, and it's not that they're making mistakes, they're just not good enough to defend their leads that they're getting a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas Arsenal, it feels like they're in control and they just make an uncharacteristic error.
It's the self-destruct button. We know too well about those self-destruct buttons, that's what we're seeing with Arsenal right now.
Yeah, the feeling going into this game, I think before Wednesday, obviously, with Trudor coming in with his first game, there was already a sense of, what could happen? Because I think if we would have kept Frank for this game, or even had a different interim like Heitinga, I don't think there would have been as much like potential excitement about what could happen. I think the feeling would have been, we pretty much know what's going to happen, especially if Frank would have stayed in charge. We would have been beaten comfortably. The team had stopped believing in Frank, and we needed to change. So already that change has given the whole place a bit of a lift in terms of that unpredictable nature. You never know what we're going to throw out. We don't even really know how he's going to set up and all that kind of stuff. So that's obviously already exciting. And then you add to the fact that Arsenal put themselves under more pressure on Wednesday by drawing that game and conceding to bottom of the league. And the narrative now flips from, I think going into Sunday before Wednesday, you would say this game is arguably more important for Tottenham because Arsenal would still have had a commanding lead. And Spurs, in the midst of a relegation battle or, want to get themselves out of that relegation fight, and we probably need the points a bit more than them because even if Arsenal would have dropped, they've still got a good lead ahead of City. But now Wednesday's happened, all of a sudden I think it's flipped a bit. Now the pressure's a lot more on Arsenal because now all of a sudden, I think before Wednesday a draw wasn't a terrible result for Arsenal. Now it is. Now they can't afford to draw. They have to win to stop City really having it in their hands and City taking control of the title race completely. And a draw, obviously, for us, that's not a bad result, because that'll just help us on our way to survival. Just getting a point. Whatever happens with West Ham, if we get a point with the other games we've got coming up, you've got to take that as a positive. And obviously, if we win, you could, you've got that added motivation of twisting the knife on what's happening with Arsenal at the moment. So it's interesting how the psychology changes going after game on Wednesday, and I think it will just add fuel to the fire to the hopefully what will be a great atmosphere on Sunday.
What's the biggest motivation here? Save ourselves from relegation or to twist that knife in?
I think it's got to be to save ourselves. I think you've got to be battling tooth and nail for everything you can, and we got to, I think the main thing is we just got to instill some belief and life into this club and fan base at the moment, which has been dying pretty much all season with the performances and been bored to death. And it's almost like we've given up on having any positivity when watching Tottenham at the moment. That's the main thing. We need to have something to believe in again. We just need to believe that these players really do care, or these players really are better than they were showing, and we should be in this position with the players that we have at our disposal. We need that belief again, because a lot of people are now bashing the players and saying, they're rubbish, they're no better than where we are. And there's the narrative by a lot of people, a lot of fans say, what do Spurs fans expect with these players? And they're no good. They don't care. They don't even care if we go down because they're just going to get moves anyway. All these different things. So I think we just need to change that narrative. We need to flip that up. And I think if we have a positive performance, if we take the game to Arsenal, if we put them on the back foot and put them on it a bit, put them on it, and be aggressive and don't let them have the game easy and take something from the game, all of a sudden the belief will be there. There'll be positivity again. I'm not saying everything's going to be sunshine and roses, but you'll get a sense of optimism going into the end of the season. And we do still have that, those Champions League games to play. So we're not going to chuck those away. We basically, I want to be in a position when those Champions League games come that we're not throwing those away because we're worried about survival. I want to be safe, and that's kind of what you're playing for at the moment. It
is, but the way I look at it in this specific game, on the back of what happened to Wednesday, obviously I am thinking of survival, and I think 3 wins or something, 3 or 4 wins from now to the end of the season gets us there. But when I'm looking at this game, I am looking at purely stopping them from winning the title. That's the biggest motivation coming into it for me, because I do think that we're going to be safe. I'm more worried about them winning the title than us staying in the Premier League and staying in the division. And the margin for error is a lot kind of smaller for them to go and win the title than for us to win to stay in the division. So I think the biggest motivation for me and for the majority of the fans in the stadium and the way they're going to act is probably stopping Arsenal winning that title. And I think the fans are going to play on that as well. We
need Battle of the Bridge vibes, but we're the Chelsea in this aspect.
Yeah.
And if I remember Hazard talking in an interview a few years after the game, and he was saying, Chelsea had a horrible season that season, and they were, I think, at the time bottom half of the table, and their season was nothing. And he said, I just had 1 goal when I came. He said, I think he came off the bench that game. He said, I had 1 goal when I came on. And that's just stop Tottenham winning. We can't have them in a title race, and we need to stop them winning that league. And I'm going to do everything in my power. And obviously, everyone remembers that game very well, the fights. But Chelsea fans celebrated like they had won the title that game after, even just equalise and make it 2-2. And as petty as it is, that can take you far. Just that motivation of we need to twist the knife here. We need to make sure we're denting their title challenge as much as possible. And if we can do that, then the atmosphere, obviously it's double-edged sword. We get more points and we dent them as well, but that will help the atmosphere, I feel. Just knowing with that knowledge that we've really hampered them.
Yeah, you need to get like Paulinho or Gallagher going in for those hard challenges early, not over the lines that you're going to get sent off, but let them know you're there early. You know what I mean? That kind of vibe. And if Paulinho and Gallagher can lead by example in that and kind of let Arsenal know you're in a game straight away, don't let them settle in the game. Keep going in with those hard challenges. I don't want to see any Arsenal fan, I don't want to see any Arsenal player comfortable for any moment of that 90 minutes. The fans need to put them under pressure. The players need to put them under pressure. We need to be singing at the top of our lungs from minute 1 all the way to the 90, no matter what the score is. Like Gary Neville said back when we beat them 3-0, the fans played a massive part that day, a massive part. Holding gets sent off and the fans are putting them under so much pressure. Gary Neville said, that the Tottenham fans brutalise those Arsenal players for 90 minutes. We need the same vibes on Sunday.
Yeah.
Those exact same vibes.
And we need that. We need the fight from the players. We need everyone on the same page. And I think that's what Tudor's kind of, he hinted at in his press conference. That's what he's kind of been trying to instill in this group. We need to be as a team. We need to be everyone together. And I think if we can do that, we do have good players. And Arsenal are going to come to our place on Sunday. And they're expecting to win. Maybe not roll us over. They're going to expect a tough game, but they're expecting to win, and they're expecting to win fairly, without too much problems. They're going to expect to win comfortably in terms of how much better they've been than us.
I'll tell you what, though, the last couple of results have put a lot of doubt in these Arsenal minds. I think a lot of these Arsenal fans are coming into this game kind of with a bit of doubt now after these last couple of games.
The fans might be, but I'm talking about the players. They're going to expect to win. And they know they're better than us. They're going to think if we just play our game, that'll be enough because, we're better than these lot. And we just got to go out there with the mentality of we can surprise you. Don't think you're going to have it easy. This is, we've had horrible away home form this season. It's been horrible for so much. But if we can just get something in this game and show that we can go toe to toe with them, all of a sudden, hopefully that can reignite our home form as well. I think that's a very, very important thing. And Trudor has a very good home record at Lazio, at Juve. He's got a record of making immediate impacts as well. I think most of his clubs, he's won his first game. So I think this really could be the perfect first game for him. I think it really could be.
The fans need to as well play on the bottling fact as well. Bottlers again, Reya, all those chants to come out in full voice, because we need to let those Arsenal players know what they are and what they keep doing, and let that psychological edge just take them over so they get sunken in by the ground. That's what I want to see.
Absolutely. And I think their minds are still in 2023 when their first title challenge unravelled. And it hasn't left them. They haven't allowed the past, they let go of the past. And so we just got to keep reminding them of it because it's still there. And all it takes is that constant reminder. All of a sudden, will the jitters start coming? We'll start making mistakes. Will it get to them? And I think, you can argue the Wolves fans on Wednesday constantly throughout the whole game, second again on their legs. The whole game, even at 2-0 down or whatever it was, they just kept going. And was that a part of why all of a sudden you start seeing them getting tetchy and anxiety and mistakes? Was that part of it? So I think you've got to play on that mentality. Obviously, it's not going to be the reason why we win or lose, but I'm just saying every little helps, and you've got to try and find every advantage you can. And if it means playing on the psychology of these Arsenal players who are struggling mentally because they've seen this movie before and they're playing with fear, and the fear's consuming them at the moment, we've got to play on that.
Absolutely. And this game does have like a very kind of 90s vibe to it. 90s, early 2000s, something like that. Arsenal fighting for the league, Spurs down at the bottom over there. But even back then, Arsenal always knew they were in the game coming to Tottenham. It was very rare that they would win at Tottenham. A lot of draws happen at that time. And it wasn't because Spurs were a match for Arsenal in terms of ability on the pitch. A lot of it was because of the fans and how much the fans used to put the Arsenal players under pressure, booing their every touch and cheering every Spurs touch, and the songs non-stop singing. The stadium used to be shaking. That old Hart Lane, North London derby atmosphere could not be matched. And it's been few and far between at the new stadium. I think at the new stadium, you have that 3-0, but apart from that, I think every North London derby atmosphere has been a bit underwhelming. Let's have it right. So if we can kind of recreate that old Hart Lane kind of gritty atmosphere, then I think that's one kind of hurdle over the line. I really believe that.
In terms of on the pitch, where we think...
on the pitch, we don't know. On the pitch, it don't matter.
Well, that's where the game's going to be won and lost. And I think we need to take some bloody long shots because Reya is struggling with them right now. There's something going on with him. I thought that when a few weeks ago they played Bournemouth and Krupi scored this goal from range. And I watched that, and obviously it was a good strike, but I was like, why is Reya getting beaten from there? It wasn't right in the corner. It wasn't like the best strike, and he somehow found his way. And then again, I thought on Wednesday, Bueno has a shot from the edge of the box. Again, decent effort, but I was like, that didn't look like such a great effort. I think a normal keeper saves that, but I think Vicario might save that. So why is he getting beaten there? He was off his line a bit. It was almost like he was lobbed.
It's pretty simple, Sim. It's bottling season.
Bottling season.
It's bottling season. These things that are creeping into Arsenal game are unexplainable. They are unexplainable. The only reason is the psychological edge, the psychological feeling that Arsenal are feeling right now, where they've been here, they've done it before, they've seen this story manifest and play out in front of their own eyes before. And I think there is a fear within that Arsenal dressing room that is happening again. And these uncharacteristic mistakes keep happening. And it seems like it's happening every game at this point.
Yeah, and I think if I'm Trudor, I'm saying, if you get an early sighter from 20, 30 yards, test him, because he's letting things through at the moment.
Javi. That's on Javi.
Someone, Javi or someone, have a go. Someone have a go at him, because at the moment he's making mistakes with his positioning. He's not able to keep things out. I know he actually also conceded quite a lot of long shots at Brentford as well. So I think that's something we got to look at. Set pieces, interesting enough, as much as they're good at attacking set pieces, they can kind of be got at defensively as well from set pieces. Then I remember last season especially, there was something going on. They weren't very good at them from a defensive point of view. And I think that's something, obviously, one of the highlights of the Frank era was how good we were at set pieces. So that's something we've got to try and take advantage of. But I think the main thing is, from what I've seen, when teams have played Arsenal, is just get at them a bit, like go in for those duels. Don't be scared of them. Yes, they are a strong physical team, and if they can bully you, but don't let them. Don't let them bully you. Bully them back, and stick a few challenges on them. Rush them in the middle. I think they don't really have match winners in their team. So if you're just defensively solid and you're not conceding from those set pieces and you don't make mistakes, that's basically half the battle for them. And I think from then on, you just got to win those duels. Make sure your people like Gallagher and Sarr, they're in the faces of Zubimendi and Rice and not giving them time and space on the ball.
No respect.
That's it. And I wonder, will it be Saka in the 10 again, do we think?
I don't think so. I think it'll be Saka back on the right, one of Odegaard, or he's mentioned Havertz. If Havertz is back in the team, that's my biggest worry and my biggest concern, because I feel like Havertz, since he's come back from injury, whenever he's played, he's really made them tick. When he's not playing, they look a bit disjointed. They struggle to create chances for open play. They need that kind of set piece to get them going. And that's the thing. We've just got to be so strong from defending those corners. If we're strong from defending those corners, I'm actually confident that we can get something out of this game. That's what it's going to hinge on for me, because like I mentioned before, way too often they come to us, they get that goal from a set piece, and then they kind of win the game from there. And that's happened so many times with Arsenal this season. They've kind of broken the deadlock, they crowd the keeper, they make confusion, they get a goal off someone's backside, whatever, own goal, whatever, and it goes into the back of the net. And then they win the game from there. If they can't break the deadlock from a set piece, they struggle to break the deadlock from open play.
Yeah, and in the title race, Man City have 16 more goals from open play. That's a large amount. That goes to show the difference between Arsenal and City in terms of how they approach games and how they attack teams. It's night and day. And I think Man City obviously opened us up very quickly twice a few weeks ago, but we obviously came back. And to be fair to us, even if we do go down, we have shown we got a bit about us to try and get back into these games if we do go down. And that's something that we can take from the last few weeks. As much as the performances have been bad early on, that second half's been a bit better a lot of the time, when we do usually get a goal and get back in the game. So hopefully that will lead to us to not panic if we do go 1-0 down in this game, and know that we have it in us to come back. But we just got to if we can get an early goal, if we can get in that lead, I think the place will be absolutely rocking.
Yeah. A couple of years back when they beat us 3-2, I think it was, or maybe it was a different game, on the match reaction after at the stadium, I said, all Arsenal are a glorified Bolton. Yeah. The only thing I got wrong there is I should have said Stoke instead of Bolton, because after that, you know how many messages from Arsenal fans I got? You know how many comments from Arsenal fans were coming in and saying, what are you talking about? We're such a good team. Look at the football we play, blah, blah, blah. Well, you were laughing then. You ain't laughing now, because that's all they are. They are literally a glorified Stoke. And if you stop them scoring from set pieces, it's very likely that you can stop them winning the game. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, that's their main weapon. I mean, their top goal scorer is own goal, for God's sake. I think that tells it all. I think at the moment, they're not a great. Their forward play isn't great. It's not exciting. They don't have a Cherky or a Foden really who plays in between the lines. I think obviously Saka's a great player. Odegaard's been just off it for a long time. Eze he doesn't seem to fancy. Gyökeres I think is a very stodgy striker.
Do you think he might favour Eze just because of the hat trick in the North London derby?
He might do.
Because I think he might. Yeah, I think he might.
Not sure. Obviously Odegaard's the captain, isn't he? So if he's fit, you probably play him, but
he's been on the bench a few times.
Saka could be in the 10 again, but Madueke didn't exactly do great. That's obviously one big worry if you are to play Sousa and they play Saka on the wing. That's obviously got something you'll be a bit worried about. But then again, Van der Ven's going to be there to help as well, so hopefully that's something we can manage. But yeah, I think honestly don't think in terms of stopping them scoring. Like I know they're second top goal scorers in the league, but they're not this free-flowing team that can open you up at will. That's not really how they play. Now, I do think a lot of the time they get the set piece, they get the goal, and then all of a sudden the game opens up a bit because you're trying to get back in the game, and then they can pick you off.
Yeah.
And they're very good at that. But when it comes to tight games and being opened up with just a moment of magic or something happening like, well, what can you do about that kind of goal? Like Man City can do that. With just quick interchanges, bam, 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 they're in on your goal and they're 1-0. So Arsenal don't really do that too much.
Look at these games that they've drawn 0-0 in recent weeks. The Nottingham Forest game and the Liverpool game, right? It didn't look like they had much ambition to go and attack. Obviously they did, and that's probably the game plan, to go and attack the opposition. But it didn't look like it because I feel like there's no real system there kind of focused on breaking down that opposition. It is a kind of just an over-reliance on set pieces, and those set pieces didn't come. They couldn't put the ball in the back of the net in those specific games from the set piece, and they ended up drawing 0-0.
They were just easily nullified.
Yeah.
That was it. They were just quite easily nullified.
And they've got good players. They've got good players in the front line. And we all went in on Frank of saying, look, we've got decent players here. You've got to be getting more out of them, particularly going forward. And look, our players in the forward line are not as good as what Arsenal have. And that's even bigger indictment on Mikel Arteta, because years gone by, a few years back, they played nice free-flowing football. They were breaking down the opposition. They were scoring loads of goals. And ever since that kind of bottle job that season, I feel like Arteta's been like, look, we can't play that kind of football anymore. If we're going to win the league, we have to win the league playing a very much more pragmatic style. And I don't think they're going to win the league playing this pragmatic style.
Can't take the risks that they were, essentially. And yeah, I don't think they can as well, unless they start opening up a bit and being a bit more expansive and throw a bit of caution to the wind instead of just trying to control everything and trying to be so careful and so risk-free. You've got to take the game to the opposition. Against Wolves, when it's 2-0 or even 2-1, you can't have the mentality with half an hour and just say, yeah, let's keep it at 2-1 against the worst team. If they were a confident team, you go, no, let's bring on a couple of attackers and take the game away from them. Let's win 3 or 4-1 because they're going to come and attack. So let's just kill this game and it should be easy pickings. And I was watching that game. There were spaces for Arsenal to attack. They just weren't doing it. They were panicking. They were giving the ball away. They were resorting to getting in that low block and just trying to see the game out. And if they were just popping it around, keeping possession and opening Wolves up, then they would have easily taken that game away from Wolves. And right now, I think the mentality of Arteta is, as you say, I think it's so risk averse. He's so scared of conceding a counter attack or conceding a chance or anything that he doesn't want to open up in any moment. He doesn't want to throw caution to the wind. He wants to control every aspect. And to be fair to him, they're not bad at doing it. They do control lots of the pitch, and they are good at what they do. But is what they do good enough to win the league? That's the question. And at the moment, they are still 5 points clear, and City still have some catching up to do. But there is a game in hand, and they got to go to the Etihad. So right now, Arsenal are not in the position they should have been when it comes to with the talent they have in the squad and how long Arteta's been there, and the opposition of City and Liverpool, how they've been this season. Arsenal should be well clear, and I think if they would have thrown a bit more caution to the wind, I think they would have been well clear by now. But because they've just been so scared almost of losing games, I think they've drawn too many. I don't know how many games they've drawn. If I go to the standings, so they've drawn 7 games out of 27. Okay, it's not terrible, but out of those 7 games, and even the 3 losses, I reckon they could have easily got and like they could have maybe lost 2 and won another 4 of those. You know what I mean? But because they're so conservative, they'd rather. Declan Rice said it himself: "We can't win, and then you best not lose." But when you're a title challenger, that's not. I don't think that's how Pep sees it. Like Pep will go, "There's no can't win. We're winning. There's no can't win. There's no. It's
all about winning. Yeah,
exactly. Or risk losing to win. That would be his mentality. Like if we don't take any points, we don't take any, but we're going to win. Whereas Rice is saying, if we can't win, then draw, settle for that result. And it's like, well, that could cost you. And draws can be very costly in a title race, just as costly as losses.
Yeah,
more even.
Yeah, someone in the comments saying a draw is a loss to Pep.
Exactly, and I think draws could be their undoing because they're settling for those results. Whereas, you know, if it feels like sometimes when you've got like a game, like 5 games, he would take 2 draws and 2 wins, whereas Pep would take 3 wins and 2 losses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what gets you more points?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, we talk about the pressure under Arsenal because Man City play on Saturday, right? So if Man City win, there's 2 points in the gap with a level playing field. Same games played with the North London derby coming on Sunday. However, the other way to look at it as well is that West Ham play on Saturday as well. So if West Ham win, then Spurs are only 2 points above the drop.
Yeah.
And how much kind of pressure will that heap on the Spurs players? And will the Spurs players be able to handle that kind of pressure of being only 2 points above relegation?
It is a good point because if as much as Arsenal are feeling the pressure, we'll have to see how Tottenham deal with it at the moment. I kind of feel like they haven't been feeling the pressure of the relegation drop until now. And I think it got really real in the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
And
because the final whistle was 3 points.
Exactly. So it got real then. But then obviously United equalised, so it's still 5. So the pressure, the reality is there. Don't get me wrong. The reality is there. We are in a relegation battle right now as of today. We are definitely in the relegation battle. But in terms of how the players react to that pressure, it's hard to say. I think with Arsenal, it's like the reason why we call it bottling and pressure is because this is what they've done before and they've been in this position and they've let it slip. Whereas with us, this is new territory. I don't remember the last time Tottenham were really in a relegation battle. Last season even, when I remember there was one period where we were kind of half thinking, could we actually get near there? And then we won 3 games in a row and just put that to bed immediately. So like there wasn't even the fear really ever that we would go and get dragged into it. But now we are in it. It's new territory. Are these players going to be up for the fight? But then again, you know, 1 win, and let's say West Ham lose and we win 1 game, and all of a sudden the gap is 8 points, you're thinking, yeah, it's not really that much of a big deal. But right now there is pressure to win, for sure. Yeah,
we just got to hope and pray that Bournemouth get a result, because the games are actually 5:30 is West Ham, and then 8 o'clock is Man City on Saturday. So I think both Spurs and Arsenal fans are going to be watching those games with a close eye. And if Bournemouth can take a result, look, it's not beyond all realms of possibility that Bournemouth go to London Stadium and win the game. You know, Bournemouth are a good side and they're on good form as well. So if Bournemouth go and beat West Ham, then that kind of just takes that immediate pressure off. And you know you've got 5 points, win, lose or draw. Or like if you lose the game, it's 5 points still. With Arsenal, you know, they've got a hard game as well, Man City. Newcastle at home. We know on Newcastle on any given day they can beat anyone, but Newcastle have been on poor form, particularly on the road. So I think the pressure is on Arsenal regardless of what the Man City result is.
Yeah.
You know? Because if Man City lose, then Arsenal have that pressure saying, all right, we need to extend that gap. If Man City win, they've got the pressure saying, oh, Man City are right up our asses now, you know? So I think Spurs are only really under pressure, like massively under pressure if West Ham win the game.
Yeah, agreed. And I think both, as you say, I think both teams are going to have a keen eye. And it's going to be interesting to see how the narrative could change after Saturday night going into the game on Sunday. Do you think with Arteta, if they let this title slip and they don't win it, let's say they go trophyless, can the Arteta project survive another trophyless season?
I don't think they're going to sack him. I really don't think Arsenal have it in them to sack Arteta.
But can they go again? Can there be that belief they're going to win believe they're going to win the title with him in charge if they go trophyless this season?
You know what was interesting? I can't remember who said it. It was an Arsenal legend that said it on Sky Sports when they had that near perfect second half of the season. They lost one game in 19 or whatever, and Man City just won like 19 and 19. He said like being in that dressing room would have been a feeling of complete hopelessness. Like, how the hell can we have that kind of second half of the season and still not get over the line? And then obviously the next season happened and they weren't as good, and they kind of had to regroup, spend all this money, and then be officially the strongest team in the league. Now, with all that money spent, with all these players that they have, and they still don't get over the line, surely serious doubts are going to start creeping into the likes of Saliba and Declan Rice and these kind of guys. Like, is this really the club that are going to, go and dominate English football? Is this going to be the club to go and win that league and to provide such special moments? I think that will seriously creep in.
Yeah, I think second 4 seasons in a row, has that ever happened before?
No, so I mean, Arsenal did it. Arsenal finished second 3 years in a row, but then they won the league in the 4th year. So I don't know if it's happened 4 years in a row.
Yeah, that would be some mental blow. Like, I think if they were to finish second yet again and if they didn't take home the Champions League.
Especially as this is probably the first time under Arteta where they've been such heavy favourites as well.
Exactly. And I think the thing is with this season is, I think in the last seasons you could say there were good reasons. First one, they were very new to the being in that position, young team, and no one expected them to be in the title race. Second one, City was just too good, nothing you could do about that. Third one, there were all these injuries, it wasn't really even a race. But now, none of those excuses. There's just nothing. They have the best team, they spent the most money, they have all that time together. They're not really a young team, they're an experienced team now.
Best depth we've probably ever seen.
Best depth, especially in the defence, best depth I've ever seen, I think, ever in the Premier League. So if they don't win it from now, I wonder if the mentality can survive that, in terms of the belief in Arteta within that dressing room, which I'm sure right now there is still there. They listen to everything he says, but it's hard to sustain that if we don't get the results. I think we saw it with Poch. I'm not saying it was his fault or anything, but Poch said we need a refreshing for a reason, because we just couldn't get over the line. Players were getting on a bit, and the whole project needed a refresh. And I think I do believe if we would have gotten some trophies along the way, I don't know if it would have needed a refresh as quickly as it did. Because we were saying, it needed a refresh after 4 years? I mean, 4 or 5 years is quite a long time. And we obviously needed to, obviously we had that summer as well.
If we won that Champions League, I think we still would have needed a refresh.
Not necessarily, but the Champions League was one of the later ones. I'm saying earlier on, if we would have won a league or a
well, let's say we won the league in the year that Chelsea won it, last season at White Hart Lane.
Yeah, I don't think there would have been big calls for a refresh as early as that. I think we could have, obviously, don't get me wrong, regardless of whatever happened at Spurs, our transfer policy is what outdid us. And if that continued in the same way the whole time, that would have been a problem. But I'm saying if we would have won a trophy or something, maybe we have attracted bigger players with a bit more money and whatever, and maybe we would have been able to sustain what we did a bit better. The fact, my own point is, I'm not saying it was the only reason it fell apart, but I do think a reason it fell apart was the fact that we just didn't get the reward for what we were doing, and sustaining that ultimate, full-blooded belief in what you're doing when you're not ultimately getting that reward, when you're so close. It gets harder and harder as every season passes. And it ultimately, yes, it was a mistake to sack Poch, but I'm just saying it still came hard to sustain. Part of the reason why is because we didn't win. And I think Arsenal could suffer a similar fate if it just keeps going where they're not winning.
Yeah, look, I think it was different kind of situations as well, because Arsenal have all this depth. We'd never had all the depth. Arsenal were afforded all the kind of massive wages, £100 million signings and stuff like that. And also we changed stadiums. We went from White Hart Lane. We had our best ever season at White Hart Lane, and then we had to play at Wembley the next season. And don't get me wrong, our form at Wembley weren't that bad, but it was nowhere near as good as obviously the season before at White Hart Lane. So that played a massive impact. So I just felt we always need players. Even in that season against Chelsea and in that season against Leicester, we needed so much investment. And I don't think we were ever ready to win a league, whereas as ready as Arsenal are now.
I agree with that. I'm just saying the fact we didn't win as well, just contributed to this nearly man kind of thing we had going on, and it almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy at times. I think it fuels belief when you get over the line and win something. I think it fuels belief in the squad, and it helps you. You know, if we would have beaten Leicester, maybe we would have to the title. Maybe we would have won the league the next season. You know what I mean? Instead of falling short again. And I think these things they do matter. Maybe we would have won a cup along the way, but all of a sudden we didn't. We didn't get over the line in those moments, and then it kind of filled these other moments like FA Cup semi-finals where you fall short, or Champions League final where you fall short, because you didn't go over the line before. You're kind of used to it. And do our Arsenal very much thought they're in that trap at the moment. They need to get out of it, and they need to prove they can get out of it. And at the moment, what they're proving is they're still in it.
Yeah, they are still in it. And right at this moment in time, I don't think there's much difference between when you see how Poch is managing that situation. If anything, Poch's was way more impressive than what Arteta is showing right now, because Poch had to deal with the stadium move, because Poch had to deal with a self-imposed transfer ban. Poch had to deal with so much during his time at Spurs, and still kept us very competitive. You know, semi-finals of the Champions League, 2 title challenges, a Champions League final. Where Mikel Arteta, he's been able to go from strength to strength every year in terms of the squad, you know, have a settled team and everything like that, and have unbelievable depth, and still can't get over the line. So if anything, I'm looking back at both times, or we can't look back at but what Arteta's done so far, and I say Poch is actually a lot more impressive than what Arteta's doing right now.
And everyone talks about how great Arsenal are defensively.
Yeah.
The season we had under Poch, where we chased down Chelsea for the title, Arsenal have never conceded less goals than we conceded in that season. And so that goes to show, even though you look at Poch's team, you think back at it, obviously it was good defensively, but it was known for that. It was known for Kane and Son, and the swashbuckling football, Dele Alli in between the lines, Eriksen, assist king. That was the stuff you remember. Whereas this Arsenal team, you do remember them for being defensively solid. That's like their main thing.
Because there's nothing else to remember them for.
Exactly, and yet the Poch team was better defensively than this Arsenal team, statistically, which is mad to think about. So I think that Poch team was better than this Arsenal team. I think that Poch team, that 11 anyway, if we had a better, obviously again if we had a better squad, but I think we had a better 11 than Arsenal have.
Yeah, I agree. You know, better style of play as well, able to implement it better, suffocated teams more, scored more goals from open play, conceded less goals. I mean, by every metric, I think we're probably better. In that season, that Chelsea season, that when they won the league, to compare it to this season, I think probably, I don't know or seen the stats, but I would hazard a guess that in most metrics we would have been better.
And we used to score from set pieces. Toby used to score corners and stuff. We were quite good at that as well. So the only point being is I think Tottenham are an example of, like, if you don't take advantage of when you're in this moment, then you never really know how long it's going to last or when it can fall apart, because it can kind of just happen.
The thing is, right, back then, what was holding Spurs back was the board and how we kind of replenished the squad and gave Poch the depth. That's not the problem with Arsenal. The problem with Arsenal, what's holding them back, is the manager. The manager not being able to take the shackles off. Because I firmly believe that if he was to take the shackles off, I think they'll win this league, and they probably would have won it quite comfortably.
You think he's the problem?
I think he's the problem, yeah.
But he also got them there.
He got them there, yeah. Look, 100% he got them there. But the way that they play their football is on him. Who else can it be on?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And I think he got, as you say, he got spooked a few years ago and never got back to that.
We all talk about how the Arsenal fans are suffering from PTSD, and they're a damaged bunch, those lot, because of what's happened over the last couple of years. Arteta is also. He is also suffering from PTSD and damage from those couple of seasons, and that is why he is not letting the shackles off, and that is what is going to hinder them this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's very interesting, going to be a very big few months. I think the Carabao Cup final is going to show us a lot as well. If they win that, I think that psychologically can change a lot of things for them. Even if
the thing is, I think psychologically it will have more of an impact on Arsenal than it will on Man City. Like, I think there's 4 Premier League games until then. Like, if Man City are above them by then, there's little Arsenal can do in terms of overturn that, unless Man City slip up.
Which they not.
Yeah, they can do it, but I feel like if Man City get themselves top of the league, I don't think they're going to let that slip.
Yeah, I mean, they might not, but they also aren't the same Man City, so I don't think you can rely on them to go 12 for 12.
It's not 12, well, if they, yeah, I guess.
Like, I don't think you can rely on that. So if they do, even if they go ahead of Arsenal, if they go ahead of Arsenal and then beat them in the Carabao, I think Arsenal mentality is going to be done. But if they beat that Carabao, I can see them getting a real boost from that and start winning games like all of a sudden with their chest out, that bit of anxiety lifted from their shoulders, and they can really go take City to the wire, even if City overtake them in between. I think that Carabao Cup is going to be very interesting. But I think in terms of the future of Arsenal, I think these next few months are going to be kind of pivotal what kind of direction. Because if they do end this season trophyless, I think they will keep Arteta, I agree. But whether they, as a project, can sustain what they've been doing in terms of these title races and the belief in the squad that, you know, we just keep doing this, we're going to win, and they're just not happening. Like, I do wonder if the future of the project is in doubt if they do go trophyless again.
It's interesting kind of how they move forward past this. If they do sack Arteta over the next year, do they go for like a win now manager, or do they go for like a Cesc Fabregas or something like that?
Well, I've been watching a few Arsenal meltdowns over the last few days, and a lot of them are saying Enrique.
Yeah,
that's one they want.
If they get Enrique, we may as well go home, man.
Enrique, if he brings one of his PSG players with him.
But look, we're going to get Pochettino back, and we'll get back to those levels, so don't you worry about that.
Exactly. Poch is coming, and then Arteta's going to be running scared.
Yeah, if
he never managed against Arteta, did he, for Spurs?
No,
I think he got sacked, and then Emery got sacked like a week later.
Yeah, when Poch got sacked, Emery was still there, yeah. So look, big day on Sunday. If you're going, people, I keep saying it, but do not come back with a voice. Give them hell for, I won't just say 90 minutes, but give them hell for the moment you step into N17, people. We need to make this an intense and intimidating atmosphere as possible to give us the best chance to win this game. And if we do go and win this game, them lot down the road will not be able to hand themselves. They will go crawling into their holes where they came from, and they would have wished they never moved over to North London from South London. So give them a proper Tottenham welcome, people. That's all I'm saying.
Give them hell.
Exactly.
That's all we need to do. We need the pyro out. We need everyone on the high street. We need a warm welcome for these Arsenal lot coming down. And I think when they get into that stadium, we need a raucous atmosphere. We need everyone singing from the top of their lungs. And I think it's going to be tough for them to handle it. I really do.
Yeah. I want to see that proper old Hart Lane, North London derby vibes on Sunday. I can't wait to get down there